Hello and welcome. My name is Sharon and this is Trio.of.Witches Tarot. In this video, I am going to do a side-by-side of the Forager's Daughters Tarot. I have the first and the second edition, which is was a recent Kickstarter and arrived recently, and a lot of people have done their walkthroughs of it. What is that? Anyway, distracted. I haven't seen side-by-sides of the first and second, and there are not major differences, but differences. So if you have the first edition, you're thinking about the second edition, maybe this is worthwhile to you. If you are a collector and you want both, and you have one or other or neither, this maybe is useful to you as well. So let's just jump in. So obviously the first difference we can notice is that there is a difference in the cover art on the books. The boxes are different, the cover art on them is different. The first edition is a nice box, you know, it's one of these two boxes like this, has the nice thumb cutouts. No complaints, it's a nice box. The second edition is just embellished in really fantastic ways. All the suits there. And it's one of these, the right way. And we've got cicadas there, I believe, which are just, they creep me out. I'm not big on the bugs, but I guess it's a cicada there too, isn't it? And it's one of these nice boxes with the ribbon to lift it out. And those are the backs, which we will get to in a minute. Let's look at the books. So the covers of the books are different. The first edition is a softbound book. I mean, this book would still be usable for even the second edition. You don't have to, if you have the first edition, you don't need the second edition book. It's hard. The second edition is hardbound. The edges are gilded. The artwork obviously is consistent with the boxes on both of these. But otherwise, let's see. So we have an intro here. She talks about creating the deck. Some information about suits, moon phases. Which is interesting because I thought she didn't include the whole moon cycle in the deck. We will get to that. The court cards, and then right into the majors with full color illustrations, which are more of a zoom in of the card, I believe, and not the full card. Yes, definitely not the full card. And then a lot of information on interpreting the card and about the flora and fauna in the cards. And the art is beautiful. So this is the first edition book, and in the back we have some spreads. And they are the same in both books. The second edition comes with a separate little fold out with some more spreads on it. So the first edition of mine is not a Kickstarter version, so it doesn't, I'm not sure if the first Kickstarter edition had extra cards or not. This is just a regular 78 card tarot deck. The second edition book, so pretty. So we have a shorter intro, and then the contents, and here's the preface. There we go. It appears to be the same. And the same info on suits, moon phases, court cards. And then this talks about the additional 5 extra major arcana cards, which you could leave in or leave out, use as significators or oracle cards or whatever you want to do with them. And then the same, let's compare the art just on, so you can see. Get to it. Come on. There we go. So the same. And the colors are a little bit different. That's just probably an artifact of the printing process. We will look at the cards though to see. So then we get all the way to the back, and then here is that extra fold out with the additional spreads. 3 additional spreads. Okay, so that's the books. Okay, so here, let's look through the decks. So, like I said, it's the 2-part box for this one. And one of these book style ones with the ribbon to pull it out. And on the bottom, it's for cicadas again. It's a beautiful box. If I didn't keep my decks in their boxes, I would use that box for something else. I use a lot of my bigger boxes that I don't keep my decks in for like creating a traveling altar or other fun projects. So there's the backs. Cardstock is very similar. The linen, so if you can see it, you can catch it in the light, right? It's hard. This has a little bit more of that textured linen feel, the first edition. This still is linen, but isn't quite as pronounced. The card sizes are, so the new one, second edition, is smidge, like just a smidge bigger. The first edition was edged in rose gold, and the second edition is gold, that super bright gold. Do them side by side. There you go. And the second edition is a little thicker, but that's, I think, only due to the addition of the 5 cards. And then we can see that the art on the back is different. There's this different shade of purple consistent with, here's the box, and here's the box. The box is a little bluer. Okay, so let's flip them over. They're a little slippery, both of them. So overhand shuffling has chipped this just a little bit. I think I could fix that with a marker on the front of it. So yeah, I probably wouldn't overhand shuffle these if I were you. I probably am going to stop. I started overhand shuffling a lot just by habit because I have a lot of big decks that can't be, it seems like the gilding bleeded a little bit on there. Who cares? So this is the Afterlight. The new one is called the Afterlight. And so the borders in this whole deck are this cream color, whereas in the first edition, they are color-coded. So the major, everything from the majors throughout is color-coded. So you know instantly what you're looking at. And then we see this border design is different. The little banner and the font, well, the fonts are the same, just different sizes. And the artwork is the same, but seems to be, yes, it seems more close up in the Afterlight edition. Seems to be zoomed in just a smidge. So everything is just a smidge larger. And then we see here this border color is definitely a darker blue. They're both beautiful, and you aren't really, other than the 5 cards, the Afterlight, you're not really gaining anything new. Other than, I don't know that you can get the first edition anymore. If you wanted it, you could probably find it, put out some feelers in Facebook groups and such. And I'm going to go kind of fast. Love dragonflies, love the crystals. Because this isn't like a deep dive into the deck. It's a very beautiful deck. It's some of it is a little bit different symbology than we're used to. I love animal decks, so there's no way I was going to pass this up. I don't have a whole lot in terms of botanical decks. I don't know if I would ever be able to connect to like a purely botanical deck. Might try, like with Herb Crafters. It's not an expensive deck to get, and I think the Botanical, whatever it was, by Kevin, whatever his name is, that was a Kickstarter recently, is coming out of mass market. And there was, the reason I didn't get it is I saw a lot of complaints about the cardstock on that. So I'm waiting for the mass market version of that to try out. Although it, on top of being a botanical deck, is a Pippi deck. But we're not talking about that right now. We're talking about this. So, Trilliums. Like the star is like a compass. I don't know that I've ever associated the star with the season personally, or what season it does associate with. These seem like a little bit redesigned, maybe. It's hard to tell because it's rounded there on the bottom, but that eats into it. Maybe they're the same. Anyway, there's a lot of seasonality in here, and I haven't really thought through how those align with the seasonality I apply to any of the cards. Be interested to hear your thoughts on the seasonality of cards and how these cards align with your associations. What happened? Oh, these are the extra cards. So we won't look at the ace, so it'd be distracting. In fact, we're just going to put this over here like that, so it's not distracting. So ephemerality, and a Luna Moth, an Ancestor, Stillness. So I don't know that if these 5 extra cards are a Kickstarter only, or if it's just included in the deck now when you go to order it. But I will provide links below, and I'm curious. Bond. Ingenuity. Okay, so here we go. So while I love both of these decks, there is something to be said for having the color border on the outside indicating, but we still have that color on the inside. Excuse me. This has like a little bit more of an Art Nouveau feel. They both are Art Nouveau. This one feels more Art Nouveau. This feels a little bit more Craftsman style almost, because it's made to look like wood. Are they all? Yeah, they're all made to look like wood. Where here, it's purely an artistic thing. So we have the wand up there, and then now we have the phase of the moon here. So I think it was in the aces and the quartz only, but we'll see. I like that she has the North Star there. So is this only flowers in this one? And there's a fair amount of bugs in this. Learning to make peace with bugs. So I hadn't noticed that we have a little mouse there, or yeah, that there is not as many animals. I mean, I kind of assumed in my head and had it pictured in my head that every single card had an animal in it, and obviously they don't. So this is a clever 10 of Wands. Okay, so now we have in the courts the phases. So we have, if we go for the ace and then the court, so there's 5 phases of the moon. So what does she say? I'm just looking real quick in the book. I know I said this wasn't going to be an in-depth thing. So we have the new moon, the waxing crescent, the waxing quarter, the waxing. So we don't have any waning moons. That end, I will link Sadhana from Integrative Healing. Her channel, she did, I think she took 2 to 3 videos to walk through this deck. She talks a lot about how she feels about the fact that we don't have waning moons in this deck. That's a beautiful Ace of Cups. One of my favorite cards. More shadows without the lights. Keep my hands out of the way for the most part. So this card, for me, the 4 of Cups in this deck is a little bit of a struggle. I'm going to have to make peace with this one. And it's not that it's not beautiful. It's just that I'm having a hard time reconciling it with how I understand this card. And it's interesting she chose to put a crayfish in the 5 of Cups. I wonder if that's some relation to back to the moon card. This one makes me kind of laugh. It's trying to figure out which fly to eat. But I'm not quite sure I understand. Let's use something to point with. The bubbles around them, because they kind of give me the feeling of being tadpoles. So that one is kind of confusing to me. I get it, but it's kind of confusing. Snake. And some turtles in the 9 of Cups. That's a beautiful card. Makes me think of, which I've never been to, Plivets in, I'm not sure, is it in Croatia? Croatia, I believe, yes. And I have a friend who's from Bosnia, and she says that it's such like super, super crowded. So, which you never see in pictures you see of the Plivets lakes. somehow someone manages to get pictures without any people in them, but it's a crowded park. Not sure what flower that is. Bleeding Heart makes sense for the Queen of Cups. So I know a lot of plants, but I don't know a lot of the plants in here. I think she, oh, brain. Jessica is her name? No, is it? Where does it say? Please say her name somewhere. Yes, Jessica Lee Howard. I believe she's more in the Midwest, where I am more West Coast, Pacific Northwest. I actually live in Utah, but I've lived in many states, and I'm originally from the South, so the Midwest is not as familiar for me. And it's interesting, I would like to know why she chose to have this sword pointing downward when you're used to it being pointing upward. Again, you know, the swords are pointing down. Normally in the Two of Swords, they're pointing up. I'd like to know why she chose a cardinal for this. I mean, other than just being red, was that the only reason why? I don't know that the book really gets into that level of detail about her choices for the animals. Let's see if we can find it. So her order is different. I put the suits in the order that I understand them. She starts with cups, and then goes to swords, and then wands, and then... Wait, where are pentacles? So it's cups, pentacles, swords, and then wands. And we are in swords here. There are 3. So does she talk about... Okay. So it's the normal stuff you associate with it, and then the cardinal, she does talk about what the cardinal means. It says hope and innocence, the budding branches, new life from death, and the swords, stabbing, pain, loss, betrayal. Of course, there's more in here. There's the dissection, the compass, and the reflection. But I'm not sure. I guess if we're talking about the cardinal representing innocence, then maybe this card is representing focusing more on that loss of innocence that the Three of Swords could mean, which is cool. I mean, that kind of brings a new layer to that for me. And I guess toads are underground. I don't know a whole lot about amphibians in general. And it looks like there's snow, so like swords, I think this was one of the things that Sadhna also said about this deck, is that it does not feel consistent that there is a season throughout the minor suits. So, you know, this feels like swords is winter, which is how I associate swords. And Sadhna is also, but here, you know, this is clearly not winter. So, yeah, maybe you would be bothered by that lack of consistency. One, of a single species throughout the minors, and 2, the lack of consistency of a season throughout them. Those look like cicadas. Ugh. Sorry. My sister lives in North Carolina. I have never had to encounter these. Like, actually, I think I drove through somewhere once when they were in season, but if I never see them, I will be happy. raccoon. Centipede, millipede, centipede probably. Puppies. Look like puppies. Poor fox. So it doesn't shy away from the hard things. So that's interesting for the 9. I mean, you could put any bug on there and that would be the 9 of Swords for me. Pretty much, other than bees. I am a gardener and I understand the need for the balance in nature of all of these things, and I don't use pesticides, but I also am not friends with most bugs. They are so foreign. So interesting, this one feels more zoomed in than this one. It is for sure, yeah, because if you look here, the beak is not quite to the edge of this cone of light, where here it's over it. So there are very minor changes that I've had detected so far. It's more about how zoomed in the artwork is than anything else. If you've noticed something that I've missed, please comment below about what that is. If you have any cards that you have insight on, that you find the plants or animals or the moon phase or the seasonality that is being depicted meaningful, share it. I would love to have a further discussion about this deck because I think it is so beautiful that I really need to get into it more to get all of those hits from it. Think I like in this one, so we have a difference of the color of this egg down here. I like this lighter color. Violets. Ants again. So we had ant in the 10 of Wands, and we have ants here in the Pentacles. And the 3 do work together as a society. Makes sense. Blue jay. I'm familiar with blue jays. They are mean. The fire. So this definitely feels not quite winter, but late fall for sure. You know, and not everywhere do they associate winter with snow. So, you know, it could be winter. I associate winter with snow. You know, it certainly conveys that feeling of cold and difficulty. So this bird is beautiful, but I feel, at least in this lighting I'm looking at this, it's non-obvious. It's sort of hidden in there. Maybe that's intentional. Spider. So spiders in general, I'm not as creeped out by, which is weird because most people are creeped out about spiders. Bees. Love me some bees. Got a nice kitty chilling in the yard. Looks like it's amongst some catmint there. 10. Looks like roses, bears. Could have been roses and deer because the deer eat all my roses. Still looks like some kind of allium, the flower. So I think the line work, I'm just noticing now that the line work appears a little darker, a little more pronounced. Looks like a peony. And then our king. So there you have it. That's the side-by-side of the first edition and the Afterlight edition. I hope you enjoyed that. Please remember to like and subscribe and comment below. I'd love to hear your thoughts on this deck and any of the symbology and any of the cards. So feel free to comment and let's have a conversation. Thanks and have a great day.